on wild swings in the markets today, which had crashed on President Trump's massive tariffs, building the pressure that led him to partly back down today. Trump announcing a new cut to his own new tariffs, something he and other aides had ruled out as recently as a few days ago. And this cut comes without foreign countries giving the U.S. anything tangible yet. His Treasury Secretary came out to promise the world today and the markets that there is a ceiling now, so that the worst may be over. And this ceiling is something that means the flailing tariff standoff, according to the Trump White House, will not get worse, at least for everyone but China. That's the summary. Now, we're going to get to the details, and I'm actually about to show you how this played across Wall Street and across politics today. But let's just start, as we try to do around here, with the core evidence. And I have three things we can see clearly. One, Trump's tariffs are partly paused now, and that is designed to calm markets, and it is calming markets. They also, though, continue at 10% rates, which is widely viewed as a fairly unsustainable plan. Two, the market panic that we saw did melt into this huge rebound, and many are eager to believe that Trump's new line is somehow sturdier than his past claims. So we saw the rebound today of people saying, let's take the good news more seriously than some of the uncertainty and the bad news in the markets. And finally, in this summary, three, Donald Trump backs down. That is the clear fact of it. That's the New York Times headline. That's what Wall Street likes. Unlike Tom Petty, who's saying, I won't back down, I won't be turned around, Trump did back down today. Unlike 50 Cent, who memorably rapped, it's easy to see when you look at me, if you look closely, 50 don't back down. Well, it's one thing Trump does not have in common with them. Trump do back down, if you will. All right, with those three clear points in mind that are not really in dispute here in reality, let's now look at how all this went down.
There will be a 90-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs as these negotiations are ongoing, and the tariff level will be brought down to a universal 10% tariff.
Things can change rapidly. Markets have just been so volatile in recent days. You almost can't look away because you might miss a 1% move in either direction.
This was driven by the president's strategy. He and I had a long talk on Sunday, and this was his strategy all along.
It's obviously a relief rally for markets.
We've had more than 75 countries contact us, and I imagine after today there will be more.
Are the numbers I'm seeing on my screen correct here for the Dow? Are we up 840 points right now? Dana, I'm watching this literally glitching in gap. We're up 900 points. Is this yeah, okay. There. Wow.
Is this real? Wow. And those are the people in our sister network, CNBC, but among other financial journalists, the people who track this for a living and are still like, whoa, how did that much capital come flooding back into the markets? So that is a good thing that comes after a larger bad thing that is not over. All of this Trump-induced, much of it feeding uncertainty. Ordinary Americans are still going to be paying what everyone has been calling this Trump tax because, at least under the new announcement, there's still a large tariff in play. Could amount to thousands of dollars a year, depending on what you buy. The fact is that while Trump is backing down, he's still claiming to do the 10% tariff, which raises prices. And it's been an interesting week and a costly one, thanks to Trump policies. But most experts and participants view this as a self-induced American economic disaster without much clear upside, other than someone who took so much money out that when it came flooding back, they can say, look, it's not as bad as the thing we started. Some are also clamoring to try to help Donald Trump get into a place where he continues to back down and give the whole thing up. Some claim this was a strategy or that he won something in the hopes of maybe trying to flatter him into a less embarrassing off-ramp to get us all past this. But factually, when it comes to trade policy, even before you get to China, this thing isn't over right now. The current reduced tariffs carry some of the same risks that we've heard experts and MAGA allies and billionaire hedge fund managers all deride over the past week, albeit at a lower volume. I told you I'd get into the details. Well, consider how it was reported just last week when the tariffs first went into effect and we were looking at the 10% tariff. So we've deliberately showed you a slightly older headline. This is Reuters or The Guardian, referring to what is today's reality, a 10% tariff, smashing global trade norms, a seismic shift to global trade, a big bad deal at 10%. So Donald Trump has done something that many people try to do in politics or sales. They sometimes call it the anchoring effect. If I scare you at 20% and bring it down to 10, it feels like a relief. If you started out at 0 or 2 and jump up to 10, you go, oh my gosh. And so we don't know what the markets will do any more than we know what Donald Trump will do. But very recently, the experts viewed 10% as a problem. Now that's the reduced norm. Markets relieved about that. But there is still far higher uncertainty about U.S. trade policy, about U.S. credit, even about the full faith and credit of the United States and the Treasury markets and all that stuff and details if you want to get into it, because we're still in the middle of Trump backing off, but not ending his self-induced risky tariff trade war.
Let's be clear what happened. Who capitulated here and why? And I don't want to say this because I'm a patriot. I'm an American. But it is the White House who capitulated.
He did everything right to the edge and then pulled back.
Right. Well, yeah, you could look at it that way, or you could look at it, the gun was at his head. I mean, what happened last night was very bad.
All right. So it feels a little bit of a relief here, but I have to say 10% tariff is still a massive reordering of U.S. trade and global trade, and certainly is not an eradication of the risks that we had seen in the past week.
Let me clarify something here. This is a long way from fully backing off. This still leaves the United States as the most tariff-heavy industrialized country in the world, and it's not even close.
He has permanently injected that uncertainty into markets. You can't really put the tariff threat toothpaste back in the tube.
I think it still raises the question of why are other countries going to deepen their ties with us after we punch them in the face?
All of this a reflection of a policy that was such a failure after saying they weren't going to lower tariffs, they weren't backing down, they weren't open negotiations, and they fought each other about that. They've backed down, but left these tariffs in place. And the voices we just showed you might notice, are a little different from one recovering legislation. And we see a lot of politicians. Those were financial experts, financial journalists, people tapped into that world saying this is still a huge problem. Now, Trump is saying other countries have been reaching out to make deals. Well, of course, you're going to reach out when you look at this kind of situation. But Trump was also very clearly rattled through the reporting by how things could get far worse than the drops I showed you leading into this morning.